He's all sitting in his what do you call that? Because he's got, what does he got behind him? He's sitting at the, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I'm tired.
I'm sitting in the cockpit.
Yeah, there you go. I couldn't find the word.
Our flight station, if you're getting technical about the whole thing.
I was looking for something like that. Yeah. Oh, they're all calling you out there. Thumper, thumper, thumper.
Command Central.
Command Central. There you go.
Hey, good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Doing good. All right. Well, we'll let you have your show.
Yeah, over to you guys. Have fun.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. You guys been listening. You guys been doing some great coverage on that storm. Did you determine whether or not that was really close to where Choctaw lives there?
No, it's in the upper eastern corner, and I believe Choctaw's in the lower western corner.
Yep, that's correct.
All right, good. Yeah, it's going. Did you see the radar though that I had up?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So it's like a straight line. It's headed toward me right now, actually.
Yeah, and it looks like it's being artificially kept in place.
Yeah, I showed that little video. That I showed just a few seconds of it.
Yeah, I dropped that into Zoom chat too.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you had it already out of the live chat, but I found it in Zoom.
Yeah, that's actually where I clicked it on. All right. Well, yeah. Thank you guys, and you have a wonderful show. I don't want to steal too much of your time away.
All right. Well, you guys have a great rest of your evening. All right.
You too.
Thanks, bro.
You bet. How you doing there, little sis?
Oh, I'm good. I really missed the weekend with you guys this weekend, but next time.
So is it Chris was not feeling well or something, or?
I think she had another thing that she had to take care of. I'm not sure just exactly the details, but she'll be back Friday. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Well, cool. All right. Well, we are back back in the hyperdrive vehicle, and we're ready to rock. How about you folks out there in live chat? How's everybody doing? And Mr. Dead Cat, good evening, sir.
Good evening to you, brother.
And as you might notice, it's not showing up very well on camera, but hey, check it out. You see it there?
What is it I'm looking at?
Oh, well, if you look at the screen instead of
I'm
at your front door.
I'm only seeing half of it.
Yeah, I know. In order to get the proper perspective here, it only shows up partway.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
That's why it would help if I could have a little deeper desk and have the screen just a little bit further away. Anyway, yeah, got my Space Force patch on here. Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Purple Tire will be happy to know those patches with the holes in them actually made it in the mail today.
Oh, very cool.
So, Mary, Mustang Mary says, there it is.
Yep.
And this one doesn't have any holes in it.
No. What's the other one?
Somebody says I need a booster chair. No, actually, I just need my camera a little further away so that it just, picks up a little bit more. But, it is what it is. So that's the way it is on the remaining 1 hour of May 22nd, 2019.
Yep, exactly right.
All right.
That's assuming you're on the West Coast.
Yeah, assuming if you're on the West Coast or not. So your audio sounds a little low tonight.
I didn't do anything with it. Didn't change it. Huh. I absolutely did not mess with it.
Let me just, okay. Maybe I just need to turn things up here a little bit. Go ahead. Give me a test 1, 2, 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Okay, that's I got it up a little bit higher there. All right. Okay, let's see. Ask Mama Channel, she's out there. Good evening. How are you? Good to have you with us there. Uh, all right, MZ, sorry. Thumper needs a booster chair. Nah, you know, actually this one goes up higher, but it won't fit under the desk then. Why are you shooting holes? No, not Q. They're not Q patches. These are the Space Force patches, and Mr. Purple Tie, who is responsible for these patches, asked us to autograph them in a straight shooter's fashion. And so we did. We autographed them. It was his request. Otherwise, we wouldn't be shooting stuff like that unless, hey, you know, given you know, proper circumstances, we will let's see, ballistically autograph just about anything.
I put one hole in the Pleiades and 3 holes in the Dragon Head.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the situation was. We have Dr. Whip in the house as well. Angel Reigns Dragon is out there. Good evening, Angel. And Dr. Whip. And Mr. Purple Tie. Keep it that way.
Kelly Capelli out there.
And yes, I see that. Shelly is out there. Good evening. And Lynn, if you're listening as well, in your undisclosed private location. All right. Well, we do have some stuff that we are planning on bringing up to you tonight. Yes, I see that. Let me just check that out, Angel.
I got to looking and reading some of that stuff from that website that we got, and there's some pretty interesting stuff in there. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit of stuff on that website. So, DC Panic, good. I'm glad that you decided to, you were able to catch us again. That's awesome. And does anyone know if Theresa May resigned? Have no idea. No idea.
I think Crystal and Sassy were talking about that. She's got just a short period of time before she either must resign or they're going to boot her ass out. So,
darn.
Yeah, what a sad thing.
I can butt in and tell you.
Yeah.
Would they have taken a no confidence vote and sealed it? And if she doesn't resign by the 4th of June, they're going to open the vote.
Aha.
Ooh. Oh, well, that kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it? You know? Yeah, if you don't resign on your own, we're going to open the vote up and really embarrass you in public.
Yeah, how would you like to be embarrassed?
Exactly.
And then leave office anyway.
Yeah, 999 to 0.
Well, you know, there are a few over there that aren't all that anxious to bail out of the European Union. That's too bad. But be that as it may, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, tough.
Well, be that as it may.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Oh well, it's not that good if you have to explain it, right? Oh, try again later.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my. Well, hey, are you ready to get the show on the road?
Okay, let's do it.
I'm ready. Are you guys out there in live chat ready? Let's get the show rolling. Here we go. We'll see you on the other side. All right. Y'all ready for this? Hey, I've got one other thing I want to share real quick here. It's something that just came up here in my tweets, and this is something that's kind of near and dear to me, and thought I'd share it with y'all. So bear with me just a moment here. There we go.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a bittersweet day, as it says here in the tweet here. It's a bittersweet day for us as we say our final farewell to our venerable C-130T, Fat Albert. Fat Albert has served the Blue Angels honorably the past 17 years and represented the United States Marine Corps to millions of fans. Okay, now Fat Albert has been a member of the team for a lot more than 17 years, but this particular airplane is being retired, and I assume, I'm sure, there will be a new Fat Albert that will be coming up, and but that particular aircraft has been serving the Blue Angels for the past 17 years, and they're getting a replacement, and I'm not sure exactly. Probably another C-130. But you know, you get attached to these airplanes, especially old Bert. The other Bert that was before this one was the one that I flew on when I was with the team. So farewell, Bert. And I'm sure Bert will find its way into some aircraft museum somewhere in the country, because you know, all of the Blue Angel aircraft usually do find themselves being used as a static display or a museum display someplace. So, best to you, Bert. Good luck, old friend.
Rocket flares on the side there, were those actually boosters, or were they just for show?
No, that's what they call JATO rockets, JATO boosters. Jet-assisted takeoff, yes, for short field takeoffs.
Right.
And those things will, oh man, those things will, you know, well, for the air show part of the program, they would take everything off the airplane. You know, it'd be as light as it possibly could be. And they'd roll that thing down the field, light those JATO bottles, and the thing would literally almost climb vertically. That's how much boost those things will give. And quite the ride. I never did while I was on the team when do a JATO ride. Wished I had, but I just never really got the opportunity, because there's a lot of stress on the aircraft when it was doing that. In addition to the dwindling supply of JATO bottles, actually. They were last really used during the Vietnam War because of the jungle runways and things like that. They used them quite a bit for short field takeoffs and what have you. But the stress and everything else that they put on. And then not every air show, Fat Albert would do a demonstration. It depended on the air show and different things like that. So I didn't get that opportunity, but I sure rode around the country in the darn thing. I'll tell you that. Put lots of miles going from air show to air show in Fat Albert. So it was so when you see an airplane retired like that, you know they're old friends by then. You probably worked on them a lot.
Under the hood of that sucker quite often.
Oh, a little bit here and there, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that having been taken care of, then want to thank everyone for being here with us for Hyperdrive here on this wonderful Wednesday night, going into a Thursday morning. Some of you already a Thursday morning. Thank you for joining us here at Patriot Soapbox 24/7. Remember to hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And
should be nearing 71,000 by now.
I'm not sure just exactly where we are with that, but
you don't get the number by hovering over the subscribe button there, so I don't know.
All right. So yeah, we got some things to share with y'all tonight. Some very interesting articles, and I was thinking this United States technology is 2,000 years ahead of the world.
Yeah, I saw that.
How would you like to dive into that one tonight?
Why don't we do that one? I've got another one that came from that same page that's pretty cool too. It's more of a deep dive into the TR3A and B. And it's got some pretty interesting stuff in it.
Yeah, that one is also very interesting bit of information as well.
Yeah.
So Karen Melican, good evening. How are you? Tina Anon, how you doing? Tim Wagar, Fat Albert is flying tool shed for the Blue Angels. Yeah, pretty much. Tools and parts. You got to see what gets carried on Fat Albert from show site to show site. And Greg F. Blue Angels down at the Academy on Wednesday. Okay, for the that would most likely be the Naval Academy graduation, I guess. Remember last year at the graduation at the Naval Academy, President Trump sat there and shook every single graduate's hand. That was pretty awesome.
Truth Sister UK, smoke cleared dead cat. I just voted for the Brexit party and they only supply pencils at the polling stations. Wonder why that would be. She said, it's okay. I took black pens and placed them in every booth.
Way to go.
Good job.
Nice job. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you're not going to erase my vote. Don't think so.
A big red G says, do you guys know anything about Q in YouTube URLs?
Q in YouTube URLs?
No, I do not.
More sauce on that would be nice.
Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
I just
what happened?
I don't know. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you're good. 5 by 5.
Huh. It's like my headset just all of a sudden died.
Really?
No, there it is.
Oh, it came unplugged.
Okay. Yeah, the cord just all of a sudden decided to pop out. That's kind of weird because it locks in there.
Yeah, the microphone is working fine.
Okay. Well, just the feedback that I get into the headset here through the microphone, that lets me know that the microphone is working properly. All of a sudden just went blink.
Stands with a smirk asks, what does the BW stand for, Dead Cat? It stands for Black Wraith. WRAITH. That's the first person shooter clan that I used to belong to. We played Counter-Strike and a few other of the shooter games. And being an old man was not an impediment. I kicked their asses frequently.
Gecko Buzz says, Q Kitty been chewing on the cord? No, he hasn't been over here chewing on the cord. His thing is to, he'll lay here next to the soundboard and then he'll stretch out his feet and he'll actually accidentally, I'm sure he'll push the slider down on the microphone gain.
Yeah, he's done that a few times.
He's done that a couple of times. Yes, he has. So, all right. Well, shall we dive into this article here, Mr. Deadcat?
One moment. I want to say thank you and hello to all the Blue Wrenches out there. Thank you for being with us. Very nice to see you tonight.
Yes, Mama Chance. Too much thumping shook your headphone. Yeah, I know. I got this.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, my thumping thing makes me go like. You ought to ride a couch with. You on one end, me on the other, and I'm sitting there thumping, and you're going.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, busy feet. That darn Ginger Baker feet. There you go.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
let's get this up on the screen here, and we'll dive into this.
Let's dive into some 2,000 years ahead of the world technology.
Yeah.
I like it. Me likey.
This is going to be interesting because it kind of touches on some stuff and something interesting that we just saw released here not too long ago was that little machine or whatever it was. It actually creates a repulsive or like a shield.
The electromagnetic
Yeah.
design that was handed over to us supposedly by friendly visitors.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
With no need to worry about the patent or paying royalties on the patent or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States.
Yeah, and it's capable of repelling nuclear weapons, capable of repelling electromagnetic storms coming from the sun.
Yeah,
pretty handy.
Pretty interesting stuff.
Possibly an asteroid repellent.
You never know. You just don't find asteroid repellent at the drugstore, do you?
No, you don't. You actually got to go to one of those big super Walmarts to find the asteroid repellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. United States technology is 2,000 years ahead of the world. And here it has a depiction of a 3D scalar interferometry.
Interferometry or interferometry.
Interferometry. We'll go with that. Hemispherical shell. And, deflecting incoming missiles and attack. All right.
Asteroid.
All this talk about nuclear weapons means exactly zero. The Iranians, Turks, Russians, Chinese can think and plan all they want. A cow in a barn is still a cow, and the farmer doesn't really care about what the cow thinks. The United States never, ever tells anyone what their true capabilities are. The government spends billions to make the world think that they are just like the world. Do you think that state-of-the-art weapons systems are published in military magazines?
No.
Do you actually think that only weapon systems we have are the antiques we sell to the Arabs?
No.
Do you actually think the USA would forward stage tactical nuclear weapons in unfriendly places like Turkey if we didn't have a defense against them?
That's a very, very logical question.
Mm-hmm.
I like that question. I like the implied answer.
Yeah. And you're supposed to answer the question though.
I know.
Okay. Do you actually think that the United States desperately needs Russian engines to launch satellites?
Nope.
He doesn't know it, but this is actually a test, guys. Don't tell him.
This is a fun one.
Do you actually think that primitive nuclear weapons, junk hypersonic missiles, jets, and other assorted scrap metal can have any effect whatsoever on a ship, base, or city protected by a Tesla shield?
Nope.
Google Images search, in quote, Tesla shield. It is 1940s technology common to all bases, ships, and cities. They have the same little graphic up there. Cities? Laugh.
Cities.
Google Images search, radar rings, quotes. You will see Tesla shields being tested.
Well,
Do
they
you
could have
think?
used Tesla shield in Jefferson City, Missouri tonight.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting that that almost follows that exact path of that storm?
Yeah, the storm that was hitting tonight, right?
Yeah, that big storm that we saw on that one map. As a matter of fact, hold on just a moment here. Let me get that map up and let's compare. Hang on just a second here. I believe did I send that to you? Or did I
Which?
put the Tesla map, or not the Tesla map, but the
storm
Well, I
map?
know
I don't think you did.
I know where I put it. I put it in Zoom chat. I put it in Zoom chat. Hold on just a second.
What's the point?
You'll see the point here in just a second. You see where all those circles are?
Okay. Do you want me to drop the share here? You want to put that up?
Yeah, I just want to throw it up there for a second, and then you can go back to the share.
All right, go ahead.
All right, coming right up. Let me make sure I've got it correct here. I've got all the things, all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So take a look at there. That is the storm that just hit Missouri or Missouri. And take a look at that, and then watch this for just a couple of seconds. Watch the radar images.
This whole section over here, all these blooms
Like
that
they're
you see,
pluming.
Mm-hmm.
heating up the atmosphere, and
See there? Now, I'll drop the share. Now compare it to the map that you just put up there.
Okay. A second here. All right, there you go.
See, look at there.
Yeah, the only thing is that storm region was just a little bit further south, like right through here. But yeah, all of those blooms that are showing up.
Yeah,
Uh,
area right here.
yeah.
You could see it going through Oklahoma there. It almost follows the same path.
Yeah, very similar. And the interesting thing is, and this is something I was going to bring up. I always thought it was a phenomenon of our area here because of the gorge where the Spokane Valley, river runs through, downtown, then turns north at the west side of the city and goes north. And all the weather comes in from the generally from the west, southwest. Okay, and whenever we'd get like most typically, during a snowstorm. You'd see it come in, and it would like part, and it would go around the city, and then if it was a big enough storm, it would eventually close in on the city, but it would after it had kind of, scooted around to the north and the south, and then all of a sudden it would, just whoosh, and then we'd get a fairly significant snowfall. And I always wondered about that. Are they deflecting that snowstorm away from the central part of the city? And if they were doing that, what would be the reasoning for it? Well, economically, think about it. Large snowstorms coming in, you got the streets all clogged up, people are crashing their cars. The economic impact, people not getting out and shopping and getting about their business and everything. You also consider the cost of snow removal to cities and things like that. I always wondered about that. So here you have these areas here. Now, the weather in this part of the country is going to be a lot different in the way, because they just don't have the mountains and things like that we do out west here. But we have a large flat area from the Cascades over to Spokane, and then Spokane is up against the foothills of the Rockies, which goes through eastern Idaho, western Montana. And so they could actually possibly be using that kind of technology out here west of Spokane, just maybe 4 or 5 miles west of the
Like
western,
around Fairchild Air Force Base.
around Fairchild Air Force Base, or just north of it.
Yeah.
Well, there's some and just to add to that, there's some interesting facilities out in that area that they're just compounds. They got a big fence around them, and they look like radar compounds or weather compounds or whatever. And if they are using that kind of technology, that's about the center point for a lot where this dome seems to start building up.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well, here's an interesting little bit of data that most people might not be aware of, and that is the use of Doppler radar. You hear it all the time on the weather, Weather Channel and the various other channels that do weather reports. They always talk about Doppler radar image, right?
Right.
What people mostly don't know is that Doppler radar actually has an impulsive effect on the weather patterns. It actually moves clouds and moves weather patterns. It physically has an effect on the weather itself.
Now, where do you get that from?
Well,
I've never heard that.
Yeah, you haven't heard that?
No.
Well, look it up. I'd say look it up. I've got it from various science sites that I've looked at.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually does have an impulsive effect. It's not HARP level or
Doppler is just it's just a short burst radar transmission. And as the Doppler effect is, as something gets closer, it actually, train whistles is a perfect example of the Doppler effect. As it gets closer, you hear the change in the pitch.
The pitch goes up in octave as it approaches, and then goes down as it passes.
That's why you hear the ooh as it goes by, and that is the Doppler effect in motion, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, I was surprised to read that too. That Doppler radar actually has a physical effect on the weather patterns.
Well, anytime I think that anytime you're putting electromagnetic waves out in the atmosphere, it will have an effect on certain aspects of the atmosphere because it's all it's frequency, it's electronics, those magnetism, all of that, it all plays role. And depending on how you mix it all together and spew it out there, it can have all kinds of different effects. All right. Do you actually think that the United States military would allow any weapon to be sold to a country if they could not deactivate it at will?
No.
After so many hours of your smartphone microwave transmitter pasted to your brain, giving you brain cancer and making you blind, do you actually think at all?
That's kind of rude. Do I need to answer that one?
We'll leave that up for everybody else.
Yeah, well, here's a little bit of a pun. I'd like to think so.
Yeah. The USA has unlimited money, unlimited brains, and unlimited technology. Think, use your brain. The United States Space Force has been operational for over 40 years. You want to pick up and read from here?
Sure. While the countries of the world have been playing with toy jets and bombs for 50 years, the United States has been building fleets of space carriers. The information you are seeing in the media is the preparation for the long-awaited disclosure of ultra-advanced technology and answers to the, quote, alien question, unquote.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
You've been getting a crash course in Stargate SG-1.
Yes.
Anything,
by the way,
anything popping up that you could kind of throw in right now?
Well, I did, I sent you a DM with an interesting quote from episode 5 that said, bigger than you can imagine. I wonder where we've heard that before.
And that was in answer to what? In the show.
That was actually, they were on a planet and they were about ready to go through the Stargate and come back to Earth. It was near the end of the show. And one of the people that lived on the planet said, they were talking about how they had been kept pretty much close to the inside of this city because they've been warned if you go outside the city, you die. And then the Stargate SG-1 group came in, showed them that they actually could live going outside the city, that they weren't locked in there. And the person came up to Dr. I don't remember his name. Jackson, yeah, came up to Dr. Jackson and said, is it really big? Is there really a lot? He said, bigger than you can imagine. It was so cool.
And you went, oh, shit.
I've heard that before. Wait a minute. Is Q a bunch of Stargate fans?
All right. Sorry, but I just figured that'd be a good place to throw that in there.
No, that was very cool. And there's a whole lot of other stuff in those episodes that I for some reason passed that one over. I mean, I watched a whole lot of other science fiction shows over the course of the years that I've been watching television. I don't own one now, but when I did own a TV, I watched almost all the science fiction, but that for some reason was one that I just never tuned into. So crazy. All right, to continue, the late whistleblower, Phil Schneider, video is still on YouTube. Yes, and I do have a couple of videos that I downloaded and archived because they were disappearing fast, who before they suicided him, stated that the black budget was many times greater than anyone could understand, and that for every 12 months on the calendar, government technology advanced 40 years. That is 40 years. And that they have been doing that since the the 1970s. And here are some, just a little video actually. I don't know. I know it's an hour and 8 minutes, so I'm unable to do much of anything with that. I think this might be the video that I have archived though. So we can put this out in
I
link.
think this one is in reference to the so-called. We've seen many accounts of this, but it's the base in I think it's New Mexico. What's the name of it?
Yeah.
Trying to remember the name of the base. It's an underground base, but there was, they went in there and there's aliens in there, and they were attacked, and they were attacking back and forth and whatever.
Losing all the fingers on one hand and got zapped in the middle and got saved by a Marine that jumped in between him and the alien. The alien shot him with something, and the Marine
Dulce,
died.
yeah, the Battle of Dulce. Dulce, New Mexico.
Yeah, Dulce. Yeah, Dulce. Yeah.
Yes.
That's right, Dulce base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that evidently was a real thing.
Well, they say it was.
Yes, and he went on to do lots and lots of lectures, and he was under threat of death for disclosing what he knew, and they finally got to him and they killed him. That was in like early 1996. I think his last lecture was late 1995, and early 1996 he ended up dead, or maybe he just got disappeared and took one of those 34-year-old pills, and maybe he's living a good life now with all of his fingers grown back. Don't know. That means their technology is almost 2,000 years ahead of what you think you know, and that all the ships, planes, rockets, UFOs, and other assorted antiques are just so much scrap metal, and that the only people that really know what is happening are those 60 levels of security clearances above the president. For an explanation of some of the hardware they allowed to be disclosed in the 1990s, please read Top Secret U.S. Government Anti-Gravity Fleet is Operational Today. And we have that one. If you want to, should we pull that one up, or should I just go on with this read here?
Let's just keep going with this read. Let's get through it, and then we can dive down some other rabbit holes.
You see this picture here, that is in that second read, and if we can get to that later in the show, then we will. It's some very interesting stuff about some of the aircraft and spacecraft that they have available. Even the Communist News Network, CNN, knows about this antique, quote, flying triangle technology from 28 years ago. And here's another report here. Once again, we'll get this out to you in link form. A squadron of these antiques can destroy every warship, every missile base, every radar site, every military base, and every military factory of any enemy country in a week. They move at above Mach 50, and that was in 1994, and cannot even be detected on any radar system. And since they were implemented 25 years ago, they allow info on the net about them if you know where to look. The Mars Base Project has been fully operational since at least 1976. The 4 books describing how 2 people were enslaved by that program are available free at, and then there's a link there, themarsrecords.com. It is an outgoing program and ongoing program, excuse me. And the security procedures they use to enforce compliance commonly destroy the lives of the participants. You want to take it from here?
Some of the mind control procedures used to enforce security on participants of these black projects can be removed as described in various articles. And that's at this website here. The technology used to allow travel to Mars was first described by Al Bielek, a survivor of the Philadelphia experiment. In 1989, www.bielek.com, his videos are available on YouTube. I was told that he died a few years ago. The technology used was known as hyperdimensional transport gate, also called a jump gate. For much more in-depth information on hyperdimensional physics, visit the expert Richard Hoagland's website, enterprisemission.com. And this is Philadelphia experiment, Al Bielek. There's a video attached here that you can watch as well. Your understanding of science is kindergarten level and was obsolete when you learned it.
Yep, that's what we've been saying. Yeah.
All science is weaponized, and the only thing you are permitted to know is information that is not a threat to the system. Think, use your mind. Do you really want Chinese communists, Muslims, and other countries, other enemies of America to have hand phasers or starships? Would you allow them if you were in charge? Al Bielek discusses a primitive version of the jump gate developed during the Montauk project in New York as a result of the things learned from the Philadelphia experiment. He said that a military officer once told him that the United States had total domination of space and time in 1948. By the time the things described in the Mars records, and there's marsrecords.com link there, take place in 1976, the technology is mature and the United States has dozens of installations scattered around the world. Note that in the above article, top secret U.S. government anti-gravity fleet is operational today at, and there's another website here linked. It implies that Russia is involved in these deep space black project type projects as a partner with the United States, at least since the 1990s.
What have we been saying about President Trump and Putin?
What about President Trump and Tesla?
Yep.
The Nautilus is another space-faring craft, a secret military spacecraft which operates by magnetic pulsing. It operates out of an unacknowledged new headquarters of the U.S. Space Command, deep under a mountain in Utah. It makes twice-a-week trips to the U.S. Secret Military Intelligence Space Station, which has been in deep space for the past 30 years, and manned by U.S. and USSR, now CIS, military astronauts. This was a 40-year-old antique. I realize the information is ancient, what with the TAW-50, Mach 50, 38,363 miles per hour, antique aircraft described being designed in the 70s. But that is the least information available, or the latest information available. They decided to limit the leaks after that. United States Space Command could vaporize every single military installation, manufacturing facility, or city in every country on planet Earth without working up a sweat in a week. Everything you see on TV is acting. Think about it. The USA has total domination of space and time in 1948. The USA has total domination of planet Earth 70 years later. Stop worrying about the Russians and the Chinese. The Nordics are your enemy. Do not get on the ships. Metatech is a teaching website, not a news site. Please read every article on metatech.org, and please share them with your friends and on your Facebook page. And then it goes on to say here, Nordic aliens are as evil as the reptilians. The harvest is coming. Do not get on the ships. Okay. So,
yeah, that's a little different than what we're being told by these guys that have been guests on our shows, huh?
You know, I keep hearing different things about, you know, what, you know, who's the good guys, who the bad guys are, you know. So much of it, I think, is
conjecture,
disinformation what have you, in order to, you chase this stuff, and then all of a sudden you get to one point, and then somebody supposedly with some credibility comes to you and says, "Oh no, 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 those are the bad guys.
Yeah.
These are the good guys over here."
Yep.
And what have we seen? The same thing is happening within our government. Is John McCain a good guy or a bad guy? Well, he's a hawk. Well, when you need a hawk, he's a good guy. But when you want peace, you don't want a hawk. John Bolton, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? Is Rod Rosenstein good guy, bad guy? James Comey, good guy, bad guy? Mueller, good guy, bad guy? At one moment they think you're over here thinking, oh, he's a good guy, and then the next moment over here, oh no, he's got to be a bad guy. Well, you're seeing the same thing, the same game playing out here. Is it real? Is it not real? Who's the good guys? Who's the bad guys? We're being tossed around like freaking ping pong balls in this game.
Yeah, remember William Casey.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we get done with these people, they won't know what to think.
They will not know what to think. Think about that for a little bit. So it is extremely frustrating to sit back and that's why I sit back at that 40,000-foot view and take it in, because there is truth out there, and truth will come forward. Truth always wins in the end.
Yeah, you can't really cover it up. It eventually finds its way to the surface.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. I'm going to drop my share here because that's the last part of that particular article. And
the anti-gravity fleet up and ready to go if you want to do that one.
Let's see where. Let's see. Are you talking? Let's see. You're talking about the one from Michael Sala?
It's the one that was referenced in the last article. U.S. government anti-gravity fleet is operational today. These are not UFO sightings. This is military technology.
Okay, go ahead and put it up. Yeah, let's dive into that one.
All right, sounds like fun. Let me get it up there. Okay, how's my share looking?
You're good.
All right, good deal. Let me get this zoomed up a little bit so it's easier to read. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
All right. This is U.S. government anti-gravity fleet is operational today. These are not UFO sightings. This is military technology. Note, this is the first clear video available that shows one of the United States space fleet docking with the space station. Your tax dollars at work. This would never be allowed unless it was part of a disclosure program. And here, I got to tell you, this doesn't look all that clear, but let's go ahead and click on this thing and see just what we've got. We'll have to break it up into pieces. What is this, please? NASA, entire footage, Street Cap 1 YouTube. Okay, here we go, folks. All right. And you see that item right there. Crap, let's get that up there. This is it right here. Let's see if we can back it up and get a little bit clearer view. Right there. That is the craft that they're referring to that is docking with the space station. Interesting. So I'm thinking since it's out in space, there probably won't be a whole lot of narration. It's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
They got going there. Okay, I did stop it earlier, but I'm going to go ahead and stop it at the 29-second mark there and just let you guys take a look at that. We'll see what happens here. I'm not sure what takes place beyond this. whether it docks, undocks, what it does. Looks like it's kind of, must be rotating in space for it to go into the light and dark there. Okay, that's the 28-second mark there. And looks to still be attached, and it's attached in some, looks like almost like an umbilical of some sort there on the top of the space station, not attached to the side of it. Doesn't that look, looks kind of interesting there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't look Photoshop, but you know, who knows? They can do some pretty amazing stuff with AI and CGI. It doesn't seem to be doing much, does it?
It's just sitting there.
Yeah, just kind of sitting there. So let's go on with the article here. The following article is curated from Dr. Boylan's website so that it does not vanish. The technology is at least 35 years old. Every rocket launch you see is just for theater. We can only imagine what they use today. Yeah, theater and a waste of a whole bunch of good pyrotechnics, don't you think? Classified advanced anti-gravity aerospace craft utilizing back-engineered extraterrestrial technologies by Richard Boylan, PhD, 2005 and 2009. As a behavioral scientist and clinician, I've been working for over 15 years with persons who report having had an encounter with an extraterrestrial intelligent life form, a star visitor. During the course of this work, I have felt it necessary to learn as much as possible about the veridical reality of UFOs and what the government already knows about these visitors from afar. As information on star visitors and their encounters with humans piled up, I began to publish my findings, presenting them at national and international conferences, in specialty journals, and in media interviews. This in turn brought me to the attention of certain figures currently or formerly in highly classified sectors of government and the military and intelligence agencies. These individuals decided to leak certain additional information to me, knowing that I would thus serve as a conduit to bring such leaked information to the attention of the portion of the public interested and ready for such information. That would be us. That would be those of us who walk out into the night sky, into the night, and look up at the sky and say, I'm ready. Come on down and visit. And I'm one of them. All right, over to you, brother. You go ahead and read some here, please.
Okay, where did you leave off there?
The next paragraph, because the existence.
Okay, got it. Because the existence and operations of various undeclared or secret government installations related to star visitor matters are not going to be plumbed without field research. I made it my task starting in 1992 to reconnoiter, observe, and in some instances penetrate many of the most important of these installations. I reasoned that the knowledge I gained could be very helpful to the experiencers who consult with me, to help them feel secure that they had not hallucinated, but that such advanced technology exists. And in fact, the American government is in possession of some of this technology. Additionally, the hundreds of experiencers of encounters shared with me information they possessed, including about advanced U.S. craft, either by reason of being told such things by the star visitors or by being kidnapped by rogue military intelligence units and taken aboard one of these craft to one or other of these installations, or viewed such craft once they arrived. This added to my store of information and data on advanced U.S. anti-gravity craft. While I have gathered or been entrusted by others with considerable information on special American aerospace craft. I do not purport to know everything that is in the U.S. arsenal, nor everything about the operations and capabilities of the craft that I'm about to identify. What I know is presented here. I have held back nothing. At this time, I'm aware of the existence of 12 kinds of special technology advanced aerospace platforms, military speak for craft, all incorporating anti-gravity technology in some form. These 12 are the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit stealth bomber, the F-22 Raptor advanced stealth fighter, and its successor, the F-35 Lightning II advanced stealth fighter, the Aurora Lockheed Martin's X-33A, the Lockheed X-22A, the two-man anti-gravity disc fighter, Boeing and Airbus Industries Nautilus, the TR-3A Pumpkin Seed, the TR-3B Triangle, Northrop's Great Pumpkin Disc, Teledyne Ryan Aeronautical's XH-75D Shark anti-gravity helicopter. Well, they have a helicopter? Maybe that was a helicopter over in Puget Sound, Dead Cat.
Maybe so. So, what did they do? Just attach a bottle rocket to the bottom of it to make it flame on like that? Or
well, it was carrying a searchlight going straight up.
Really bright.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was an XH-75D Shark anti-gravity helicopter. That answers the question.
Could have been.
All right. And the Northrop Quantum Teleportation Disc. Before we examine these 12 exotic aerospace craft, a brief overview of the different forms of generating anti-gravity fields is in order. You want to pick it up from there?
Yes. The most primitive anti-gravity technology is electrogravitic. This involves using voltages in the millions of volts to disrupt the ambient gravitational field. This results in an 89% reduction in gravity's hold on airframes in such vehicles as the B-2 stealth bomber and the TR-3B Astra triangular craft. And given the considerable ambient ionization field I observed around the X-22A, it is reasonable to assume that extreme voltage electrogravitics is also employed with these craft.
Now, it's kind of interesting that who saw a B-2 stealth bomber today?
Yeah, that was, Pam came on our straight shooting show, for those of you who weren't there, and actually had telephone video footage. It wasn't very clear, but you could actually see the outline of the B-2 craft that flew over the top of Pam and family's house.
There are no coincidences.
No coincidences. It is okay. The next level up of sophistication is magnetogravitic. This involves generating high-energy toroidal fields spun at incredible RPMs, which also disrupts the ambient gravitational field. Indeed, to the extent that a counterforce to Earth's gravitational pull is generated. The early British aeronautical engineers called this dynamic counterbearing. That may have been used in some earlier American saucers and prototypes, but I've only been told that the secret Nautilus spacefaring craft uses magnetic pulsing, which appears to utilize this technology. The third level of sophistication that used in the more modern American anti-gravity craft is direct generation and harnessing of the gravitational strong force. Such a strong force field extends slightly beyond the atomic nucleus of element 115, an exotic element donated by Star Visitor scientist consultants to human scientists at S4, a secret base south of Area 51. By amplifying that exposed gravitational strong force and using antimatter reactor high energy and then directing it, it is possible to lift a craft from the Earth and then change directions by vectoring the shaped anti-gravity force field thus generated. Important information about this third technology is available on Bob Lazar's website. And we have actually gone over a lot of Bob Lazar's stuff too, and will do again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start with number one there?
Okay, number one. This information is also described on the Bob Lazar video. Lazar worked on extraterrestrial technology at Los Alamos National Laboratory and Area 51's Site S4. Number two, all of these technologies are primitive in comparison with the star visitors whose craft utilize field propulsion powered by harnessing zero-point energy. Now, let us now examine these 13 advanced craft in more detail. The amount of information available for each varies. In some cases, more is known. In other cases, very little. And let's see, somebody's asking John Hutchinson. I've heard the name. I can't. Oh boy, that I'm going to have to re-familiarize myself with John Hutchinson though. Neopsy 80. If you've got a link to something that John Hutchinson has, I would appreciate that. Okay. The number one, the B-2 stealth bomber, is manufactured by Northrop Grumman. The Air Force describes it as a low, observable, strategic, long-range, heavy bomber capable of penetrating sophisticated and dense air defense shields. The stealth bomber has navigation and guidance systems directed by a classified artificial intelligence AI program. This AI is exotic, involving the connecting together of PCR-copied extraterrestrial brain tissue cells with advanced integrated circuits to fashion hybrid living neurochips. The B-2 gets extra lift in flight by the turning on of electrogravitic fields along its wings and fuselage to partially neutralize the pull of gravity. Now you begin to see why our 21 Northrop B-2s cost about $1 billion each. Okay. The F-22 Raptor advanced stealth fighter is built by a joint effort of the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and Boeing's Phantom Works. In crude imitation of extraterrestrial starcraft, the guidance system of this aircraft incorporates a special artificial intelligence, AI, meaning the star visitor genetic material is incorporated into the semi-alive and autonomously functioning guidance system mated with the aircraft. In addition, the F-22 has anti-gravity field propulsion capability, which is exercised selectively by the pilot who is in mental connection with the AI guidance systems, which activates anti-gravity propulsion as needed in coordination with the F-22's conventional jet engine thrust to affect the maneuvering of the F-22 Raptor. I have personally witnessed an F-22 stop on its tail in midair and dance slowly and gently about without regard for gravity's pull. Now,
Okay,
I need to add something in here. Okay. In 2008, the Blue Angels came to Spokane here and did an air show out at Fairchild Air Force Base. At that, for that weekend, they had 2 F-22 Raptors there. And they did a demonstration. Now, I was out there each day that they were there, and that they came in on Thursday. So it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay. And they always do a practice show on Friday. I'm sitting there out on the flight line watching this F-22. Now, I've got many years in aviation, working on airplanes, flying on airplanes, all kinds of things. And I'm sitting there. I mean, I've been to a lot of air shows. I've seen some crap, right? I've seen them crash. I mean, I've seen helicopters crash. I've saw, an F-18 crash down in California during an air show. I've seen some stuff. I'm sitting there on the back of an Air Force pickup truck out there on the flight line out at Fairchild, and my jaw literally dropped. I mean, I was sitting there, I was a mouth breather, watching this F-22 go through its maneuvers. And I went, that airplane is not completely flying by thrust alone. It was I was sitting there telling people that airplane isn't flying. It's floating. There's nothing about some of those maneuvers that can even be described as flight. Okay. And, I was jokingly saying that, all they've got is what looks like jet engines and things like that on it. But what it really is a really cool sound system, and they're using, highly advanced anti-gravity technology in that thing.
I gotta do a timeout here. There's a guy out there, Spies Like Us, I think is the guy's name. Okay, here's the deal. If you keep spamming the chat here, I'm going to block you because other people want to read what's in the chat and you're just pounding people with your crap. So stop now or I block you. Okay? Got that? Next time I see you spamming, you're gone. Sorry about that, brother.
I'm just trying to find this clown.
Oh, he's all over the place. He's in there 27 times in 28 posts.
If he's got good stuff, give us some links. We'll go for it. If you know so much, all right?
Yep.
Otherwise,
he knows it all. I have it all. I know it. I got it all. I know it all. And he pound.
Well, then give it up.
Sassy Q took him out for 300 seconds. Good. If you come back and do it again, you're gone permanently.
Thrust vectoring thumper. Yeah, well, you can get away with some of that, but to be able to control down to the level that they were demonstrating that aircraft's capability. You're talking about. I mean, thrust is good, but it's not precise. I mean, you have to come down to more than just two big nozzles out the back of that aircraft to get the type of control yes, okay, I could definitely understand them being able to do it if they had some amazingly very, very efficient, very, very fast. Why are you scrolling the screen?
Well, I'm just getting it up there for the next part of the
Oh, okay. I just don't want you to. I kind of know where I was at there. Anyway, the vectoring of thrust to the level that they were able to stabilize that aircraft in some of those maneuvers. My brain said, I'm not buying the whole thrust vectoring trick. It just, it was too precision, too precise. Now, if you were to be using thrust along with some type of anti-gravity stuff out there, then I could see it. But I said, it's got a really cool sound system on there, making it sound like there's jet thrusters on this thing.
And some big fans blowing out those holes in the back.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so it blows dust when it gets down near the ground.
But the rest of it is some highly advanced technology in that aircraft. I mean, believe me, I was.
This is back in
I
what,
mean,
late 80s, early 90s?
no, this was back in 2008.
2008. Okay.
No, this was just in 2008, a few years ago, when the Blue Angels came out here for an air show, and had the largest crowd in Eastern Washington ever,
Oh,
anywhere. Yeah, they don't get that size crowd when the Thunderbirds come, but people came from all over. That place was crowded, and my car was out, and my Mini Cooper was parked out on the flight line.
oh, oh, oh. Did you get special treatment since you were Blue Angels
Yeah.
alumnus?
Yes,
Very cool.
I did. Well,
Yeah,
you've seen the picture on my cell phone, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just drop the. Can you drop the share for just a moment?
Yes, absolutely. We'll
Yeah.
do.
Okay. Here. Dinky dink. See? Yeah, there you go. You're okay.
Now it went off.
See? See? That was in 2008. That's my car sitting on the flight line at the air show at Fairchild Air Force Base in 2008.
Now that car won't quite go as fast as those FA-18s, right?
I'm not telling.
Yep. Disguised as a metallic blue TR3.
Mini Cooper. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Shall I bring the share
Yeah,
back?
go ahead and put it back up there.
Okay, hang on. I did not lose my place, by the way. There you go. Right back where we were.
Have you seen the Su-27 and the MiG-29? I've seen I've seen them operationally,
Mm-hmm.
not at an air show, but I've seen them.
One of our favorite researchers is a real fan of the Russian jets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Number 3, the next generation F-35 Lightning II advanced stealth fighter is built by Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and BAE. The F-35 also incorporates quasi-alive artificial intelligence and anti-gravity field propulsion, recovered reworked Star Visitor technologies, in addition to jet thrust. Number 4, the Aurora is a moderate-sized space-faring vehicle. The late National Security Council scientist, Dr. Michael Wolff, of the NSC's Unacknowledged Special Studies Group subcommittee, formerly called MJ-12, has stated that the Aurora can operate on both conventional fuel and anti-gravity field propulsion systems. He further stated that the Aurora can travel to the moon. Wolf had also disclosed to me that the U.S. has a small station on the moon and a tiny observation post on Mars. Thus, I doubt that Mr. Wolf would characterize the Aurora thus, unless it was a vessel already used in making such trips. He disclosed additionally that the Aurora operates out of Area 51, was a vessel already used in making such trips. He disclosed additionally that the Aurora operates out of Area 51, Groom Dry Lake Air Force Station, and the northeast corner of the Nellis Air Force Base range north of Las Vegas, Nevada. Over to you, Dead Cat.
All right. This is number 5. The Lockheed Martin X-33A military space plane is a prototype of Lockheed's other space plane, the single-stage to-orbit reusable aerospace vehicle, the National Space Plane. Lockheed Martin does not say too much about its winged delta-shaped X-33 Venture Star, except to say that we are building it. To be at that stage of development for its public program space plane, clearly Lockheed Martin has already long since built prototypes as well as an unacknowledged military version, which I have dubbed the X-33A. The A suffix stands for anti-gravity. Colonel Donald Ware, U.S. Air Force retired, told me that he had recently learned from a 3-star general that the Venture Star X-33 has an electrogravitics anti-gravity system on board. Number 6, This virtually assures that the unacknowledged military anti gravity version, the X 33A, must surely also have electrogravitics on board. It is possible that what I have called the X 33A is the Aurora craft, which Dr. Wolf described. Number six, the Lockheed X 22A is a two-man anti gravity disc fighter. The late Colonel Steve Wilson, U.S. Air Force retired, stated that military astronauts trained at a secret aerospace academy separate from the regular Air Force Academy at Colorado Springs, Colorado. These military uh, astronauts then operate out of Beale and Vandenberg Air Force bases, Northern California, from the Northern California. From those bases, these military astronauts regularly fly transatmospherically and out into space. One of the aerospace craft they use, Colonel Wilson reported, is the X 22A. Another informant, Z, aka Jesse, who formerly worked at the NSA, told me that the Lockheed X 22A anti gravity fighter disc fleet is equipped with neutral particle beam directed energy weapons, that it is capable of effecting optical as well as radar invisibility, and that it is deployable for worldwide military operations from a new U.S. space warfare headquarters located in Utah. Recently, I also heard from an Army engineer, formerly TDY'd to NASA, who shot, you know what TDY means? Uh,
temporarily deployed.
yeah. Who shall remain unnamed at his request. He also confirmed that Lockheed had made the X-22A, the two-man anti-gravity fighter disc, which I had seen test flown in a canyon adjacent to the main Area 51 operations zone. He explained why I had seen the X-22A so nervously flown during that test flight. He said that the original X-22A had a standard altimeter hardwired into it, but that such an instrument would give faulty readings in the craft's anti-gravity field, which bends space-time. He had recommended that they instead use a gradiometer, which would function better. Apparently, his suggestion was finally taken up, since in more recent years I've seen the X-22As flying more smoothly and confidently at high altitudes over and near Area 51. Over to you.
Another informant who wishes his identity kept private related operational details about military deployment of anti-gravity disc craft, which sound like the X-22A. He reports, during Operation Desert Storm, a close relative of mine was in charge of a Marine division right on the front. And the first day's film footage, and especially video cams, which a large number of GIs had, were impounded, so they wouldn't capture any sensitive material. Iraq was pumped up and gung-ho, since they had well over 50,000 troops ready to charge us. And since we only had about 3,500 they knew of, and they knew that because of the close proximity of troops, we couldn't nuke them, so they were assuming piece of cake. Wrong. Two pictures my relative confiscated from one of his officers showed: one, a large disc-shaped craft slightly in front of our men with a high-intensity beam of light emitting out of it. Then, two, where men, equipment, etc. Had stood, there only remained dark, charcoal-like spots on the desert floor. We have had this technology for quite a while. The described disc was clearly an anti-gravity, levitating aerial weapons platform in the U.S. arsenal. Quite possibly, it was the Lockheed X-22A two-man discoid craft, the real Dark Star, of which the unmanned drone X-22 Dark Star is but an aircraft cover program to disguise the existence of this manned anti-gravity fighter disc, the X-22A. Further, as Z noted, the real manned discs come equipped with the latest neutral particle beam weapons, which take apart the target at the molecular level. Star visitor craft do not incinerate humans. Only human military fighters are so deployed. So the above report does not deal with any extraterrestrial event. Number 7, the Nautilus is another spacefaring craft, a secret military spacecraft which operates by magnetic pulsing. It operates out of the unacknowledged new headquarters of the U.S. Space Command, deep under a mountain in Utah. It makes twice-a-week trips to the secret military intelligence space station, which has been in deep space for the past 30 years and manned by U.S. and USSR, now CIS, military astronauts. The Nautilus also is used for superfast surveillance operations, utilizing its ability to penetrate target country airspace from above, from deep space, a direction not usually expected. It is manufactured jointly by Boeing's Phantom Works near Seattle and EU's Airbus Industries Anglo-French Consortium. During travel to Washington State several years ago, I had a conversation with a former Boeing executive who worked in their Phantom Works, Boeing's Black Projects Division, roughly the equivalent of Lockheed's Skunk Works. The executive confirmed what I had earlier learned from an intelligence insider, that Boeing had teamed up with Europe's Airbus industry to manufacture the Nautilus.
Oh,
Number
this
8.
one's interesting.
Yeah. The TR-3A pumpkin seed is a superfast air vehicle. The pumpkin seed nickname is a reference to its thin oval airframe, whose contours resemble that seed. It may be the craft identified as using pulse detonation technology for propulsion in a sub-hypersonic regime, and also uses anti-gravity technology for either mass reduction or complementary field propulsion at higher speed levels. As air breathers, these pulse detonation wave engines, PDWEs, could theoretically propel a hypersonic aircraft towards Mach 10 at an altitude in excess of 180,000 feet. Used to power a trans-atmospheric vehicle, the same PDWEs might be capable of lifting the craft to the edge of space when switched to rocket mode. Number 9, the TR-3B Astra,
Our favorite.
is a large triangular anti-gravity craft within the U.S. fleet. Black Project's defense industry insider, Edgar Rothschild Fouché, wrote about the existence of the TR-3B in his book, Alien Rapture. The TR-3B does not depend solely or principally on its hydrogen-oxygen rockets. It is a highly reduced gravity aerospace craft manufactured in secret black programs by humans. The anti-gravity field produced reduces the vehicle's weight by about 90%, so that very little thrust is required to either keep it aloft or propel it at Mach 9 speeds or higher. The TR-3B vehicle's outer coating is electrochemical reactive and changes with electrical RF radar stimulation, and can change reflectiveness, radar absorptiveness, and color. This is also the first U.S. vehicle to use quasi-crystals in the vehicle's skin. This polymer skin, when used in conjunction with the TR-3B's electronic countermeasures and ECCM, can make the vehicle look like a small craft, or a flying cylinder, or even trick radar receivers into falsely detecting a variety of aircraft, no aircraft, or several aircraft at various locations. A circular plasma-filled accelerator ring called the magnetic field disruptor surrounds the rotable crew compartment and is far ahead of any imaginable technology. Sandia and Livermore Laboratories developed the reverse-engineered MFD technology. The plasma mercury base is pressurized at 250,000 atmospheres at a temperature of 150 degrees Kelvin and accelerated to 50,000 RPM to create a superconductive plasma with the resulting gravity reduction of almost all of the pull of gravity effects of inertia.
Which would
And-
explain how they can make extremely sharp turns.
Yeah,
at,
scroll up there. Scroll
Yeah.
up so we got that diagram there.
yeah.
U.S. Air Force top secret nuclear-powered flying triangle, the TR-3B. And so there you go. The crew compartment requires crew of 4 minimum, rotates with aircraft angle of attack and heading, variable vector intakes when pointed forward, 1 of 3 hydrogen oxygen, it's hard to read that, I'm sorry, variable vectored rocket engines. Yeah, can you go up a little bit? Yeah, that's a little bit better. Let's see, leading pads, opening.
Yeah, landing pods opening.
Okay, landing pods. Okay, yeah.
Hinged at sides, center pod telescopes down.
Okay. So there you go, a little tour around in a TR-3B.
Yeah, that's the one I want.
The MFD generates a magnetic vortex field, which disrupts or neutralizes the effects of gravity on mass within proximity by 89%. The MFD creates a disruption of the Earth's gravitational field upon the mass within the circular accelerator. The mass of the circular accelerator and all mass within the accelerator, such as the crew capsule, avionics, MFD systems, fuels, crew, environmental systems, and the nuclear reactor, are reduced by 89%. The current MFD and the TR-3B causes the effect of making the vehicle extremely light, unable to outperform and outmaneuver any craft yet constructed, except, of course, those back-engineered total anti-gravity craft which the government does not admit exist. To see the 13 known anti-gravity craft of U.S. manufacturers, see www.drboylan.com explains2.html. The TR-3B is a high-altitude stealth reconnaissance platform with an indefinite loiter time. Once you get it up there at speed, it doesn't take much propulsion to maintain altitude. With the vehicle mass reduced by 89%, the craft can travel at Mach 9 vertically or horizontally. My sources say the performance is limited only the stresses that the human pilots can endure, which is a lot, really, considering along with the 89% reduction in mass, the G-forces are also reduced by 89%. The crew of the TR-3B should be able to comfortably take up to 40 Gs, which would make, turn you to pudding.
Mm-hmm. Yes, without a reduction in the inertial forces.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. The TR-3B's propulsion is provided by 3 multi-mode thrusters mounted at each bottom corner of the triangular platform. The TR-3 is a sub-Mach 9 vehicle until it reaches altitudes above 120,000 feet. Then who knows how fast it can go. The reactor heats the liquid hydrogen and injects liquid oxygen in the supersonic nozzle so that the hydrogen burns concurrently in the liquid oxygen afterburner. The multi-mode propulsion system can operate in the atmosphere with thrust provided by the nuclear reactor in the upper atmosphere with hydrogen propulsion. And in orbit with the combined hydrogen-oxygen propulsion. The engines were reportedly built by Rockwell. Okay.
This is an interesting picture, isn't it?
That's very interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not Air Force One, but
No, that is a 4-engine jet.
yeah,
Looks like it might be military.
could be.
And a quick flyby there. Shall I take it from here?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, so I'll be right back.
All right. Number 10, the Northrop anti-gravity disc, designation unknown, is manufactured by Northrop Aircraft Corporation. I have dubbed it the Great Pumpkin from its brilliant, ruddy, golden orangish glow. I first saw these craft operationally test flown in 1992 above the Groom Range Ridgeline at Area 51, Nevada. Later, I saw the same intensely burning bright orange gold craft that I had seen above Area 51 being test flown 60 miles north of Los Angeles in the Tehachapi Mountains east of Edwards Air Force Base. There, the Northrop has its secret saucer manufacturing works buried deep within the mountains. I saw the same intensely burning bright orange gold craft test flown above Northrop's mountaintop test bed there as I had seen above areas 51/S4. When energized, these disks emit their characteristic intense glow. It is reasonable to assume that this is due to strong ionization and that electrogravitics is the methodology of their field propulsion. Number 11, the XH-75D or XH Shark anti-gravity helicopter is manufactured by Teledyne Ryan Aeronautical Corporation of San Diego, now part of Northrop Grumman. U.S. Air Force Colonel Steve Wilson reported that many of these XH-75Ds were assigned to the Delta/National Reconnaissance Organization Division, which retrieves downed UFOs. That division is also implicated in mutilating cattle as a psychological warfare program on the American public to try to get citizens to fear and hate extraterrestrials through assuming that aliens are the ones cutting up the cattle. The XH-75D is also used in MILAB's, MILABS, kidnappings of innocent civilians who are drugged, hypnotized, and flown off in these silent anti-gravity craft and given the impression that they are aboard a, quote, flying saucer, unquote. Colonel Wilson, U.S. Air Force, leaked the existence of the XH-75D Shark. See photographs of XH-75D under wrapping at HTTPS. And you guys can, I don't know that I put this link out, but I will put this link out after we're done with the read here. The Northrop Quantum Teleportation Disc. Are the above anti-gravity field propulsion craft the current state-of-the-art in advanced aerospace craft? No. There have been advances beyond, quote, mere, unquote, anti-gravity field propulsion. Quantum physics is now being used to update a variety of aerospace craft and their weapons systems. On a 9/16/05 field trip to the boundary of Area 51, during a middle-of-the-night observation, I saw first one, then another, and finally 6 brightly lit objects suddenly appear at approximately 1,000 feet, 305 meters, height above the desert floor. The intensely glowing, ruddy, golden-orange ionization field surrounding these craft appeared identical to the field around the Northrop anti-gravity disk. But in the 13 years since I had last observed the Northrop disks above Area 51 and at their Tehachapi Mountains manufacturing site, considerable progress has been made. In 1992, the Northrop anti-gravity disk slowly rose vertically from its flight pad and gradually reached flight altitude. But in 2005, the Northrop quantum teleportation disks are able to depart from their flight pad and suddenly appear at flight altitude without any visible ascent. And it's not a matter of their ionization field having been turned off during ascent for stealth purposes. The ionization field comes with electrogravitic field propulsion. If the ionization were turned off, the craft would have fallen from the sky. Rather, what appears to be going on is that the Northrop engineers have incorporated quantum physics principles into the propulsion. Simply stated, Northrop appears to have harnessed quantum entanglement to achieve quantum teleportation. To the observer, the craft simply ceases to exist on the flight pad and instantly begins to exist at, in this case, 1,000 feet altitude. If the interpretation of this observation is correct, then there exists a 12th entry in the U.S. anti-gravity arsenal, the Northrop Quantum Teleportation Disk. If the black budget scientists keep advancing along these lines, we could foresee the day when a fleet of Air Force craft suddenly, quote, cease to exist, close quote, on the air base runway and instantly appear at 35,000 feet altitude over a target city halfway around the globe, using quantum principles of non-locality and entanglement. America has used its enormous wealth to become the global superpower. The TAW-50 is but one example of its exotic, unnecessarily proliferative, and highly destructive arsenal. The world awaits the day when America finds its soul and pays more attention to matters of spirit, mind, and metaphysical development and withdraws from its addiction to war toys. We may be seeing that happening now, folks. Let's hope so. It has been said that if the American people knew what the military had in their arsenal today, they wouldn't believe it and would think that someone was fantasizing about a George Lucas Star Wars movie episode. But it's not science fiction. The future is already here. Are you back yet, Thumper?
I am back, yes.
All right. You want to take it from here?
Okay, where are you at there?
The implications.
Okay. The implications of these advanced anti-gravity craft, back engineered by humans, are several. All of the anti-gravity technology is in the control of the organization conducting the UFO cover-up. This organization is so heavily infiltrated by cabal types that Dr. Michael Wolff regretfully concluded that the cabal had effective control of it. He should know he was a high member of that special studies group, formerly MJ-12, buried within the National Security Council.
And as a point of information, MJ-12 was also called Majestic 12.
Mm-hmm. Since the cabal effectively controls the development and special use of these craft, there remains a very high danger that the cabal will use its growing anti-gravity fleet to try to repel the star visitors and even conduct space war. Elements within the U.S. Air Force and the Naval Space Command are making preparations for such a space war. And there's in parentheses here, added by Good Tech's SG, Air Force and Navy struggle over some aspects of space control, even within a unified agency. What can we do about this as light workers, star kids, starseed adults, or other humans of goodwill? First is to keep ourselves informed about dangerous and evil uses which anti-gravity and quantum technology can be applied to. Second is to contact your political representatives to oppose policies and weapon systems development that is oriented towards space warfare. Third is to encourage the release of this technology into the civilian sector, where it can revolutionize transportation, energy generation, large construction projects, and other peaceful uses. Fourth, the existence of this human technology is a two-edged sword for the cabal. Not only is the existence of anti-gravity technology starting to get out to the public, but also the very existence of a massive worldwide organization conducting the UFO cover-up and confiscation of star visitor technology. As the public becomes aware that the cabal have unfairly monopolized this technology for 50-plus years, the public will become incensed at the cabal for their greed and selfishness. This then becomes the opportunity to expose and discredit the cabal, the number one obstacle to human safety and progress.
I say amen to that, brother. And I believe that is what is being described today as the Great Awakening. Realizing that we have been kept under a cloud of disinformation.
Yeah. and there's some footnotes there, and
Yeah, I will put this out to you guys in link form at this point in time. Before I do that, I wanted to put that one link that I copied. Hold on just a minute, and I hope I did that. I did. Okay, good deal. So, and I will get this out to you guys in link form, and you guys can take all the links out of there that you care to. USMC Mom, good morning to you. Danusha, good morning to you.
yes, good morning, Danusha. How are you? Good to see you this morning.
And thank you for this website, Danusha. It is proving to be a real gold mine. Cloak of Silence, that's a good one, Ask Mama Channel. Yes, exactly right. They keep us they keep us like mushrooms in the dark and feed us shift.
BS.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Lots
That's
of it.
one.
And you know, this is something that I think is really important to everyone, and that is the idea that imagine, like they said at the very end of that article, that if we had that technology in our daily lives, and if it was developed to uh, be used to help people realize their true potential, but they have become so power hungry, so incensed that they are the only ones that get to use this technology, that they have gone to lengths that would be that are nothing less than evil in, you know, keeping people from being able to use their minds to think about these things, and at the same time distracting you with all kinds of political gamesmanship, political kabuki theater. All of these things are being used to distract you and make you make it very difficult for people to think constructively, think critically, and discern for yourself exactly what's true or not. Your natural senses to discern the BS from the truth. But you know, it's something unique. Something that I found is that there is a spirit, there is a consciousness within each one of us that we know something is wrong. We know something is not right. And given that, um, we are waking up slowly but surely. We are waking up. And my greatest prayer is that we continue this journey to waking up, to understanding our true ability in our consciousness to discern this stuff, to figure this stuff out. And I think that it's very important that, yes, there's a lot of disinformation out there. Like I said, they knock us from one end of the table, from one end to the other, like a ping pong ball. Truth, disinformation, somewhat truth, more disinformation, back and forth, back and forth. Every bit of our society is basically built on, you know, beating us back and forth one way or the other until we just freaking give up. And that's what a lot of people have done. They've just given up. So they turn on the football games, the basketball games, the baseball games, the NASCAR races, pornography. They start, you know, engaging in all kinds of behaviors that most people would normally abhor. And because you know, at that point in time, it's real. It's real to you. It's something. But what if you were engaged in you know, being able to utilize this this new technology to really utilize your inherent senses that you were given from the get-go. What an amazing world we would have. A peaceful world, I believe. We'd be so engaged in enjoying our natural, God-given abilities and talents. And you would actually develop, I think, more love in the world, love for your creator, love for one another, because we would have a sense of accomplishment.
First two commandments.
Yeah. And you would be able to actually realize a truly, yes, very, absolutely, Pat Edwards, a productive existence. Wouldn't that be amazing? If you could put everyone on this planet into a productive mode, willingly and enthusiastically, because they are, that's why, I get a certain amount, and I know Dead Cat does, and everybody else on this channel, and the people that are helping to try to disclose this stuff. We wouldn't do this if we didn't feel that it was a worthwhile endeavor. And I hope and pray that that's what we are accomplishing here by bringing this information to you. And we're not saying any of it's true, but when you sit back and you think logically about this stuff, think critically about this stuff, just, we've said it before. Tesla had a lot of this stuff worked out in the late 1800s, early 1900s, up to about, I think he passed away in, what, 1932 or something like that?
Yeah, penniless and pretty much discredited.
Okay.
Thanks to the other super inventors of the time that stole everything that he built.
So basically, we're just a few years short of my son. My son was born in 1988. Okay, Tesla was already working on this stuff in the late 1800s, so he was in his early, let's say, 20s, 30s, mid 20s. So that would be up until now, 30 years later, almost 30 years later. And my son is just getting started. Think of what all of the differences from 1988 till now. We've seen the development of the computers. We've seen the development of the cameras that we use on our cell phones. Look at the development that we've seen. And we're getting the drugs. We're getting the leftovers. We're getting enough just to appease our, and a lot of it, think about it, a lot of it is designed to distract you.
Most of it is designed to distract you.
The social media, distraction, and intelligence collection. For what purpose? Okay, what have we discovered? What have we disclosed here on Patriot Soapbox? A lot of this is designed to
out in live chat on a
so that they can use it to control you.
Yes, exactly right.
Control us.
They trigger a response. They learn something when they figure out what button to push to make you act in a certain way. They have learned something about you. You have given them a piece of technology they can then use.
If anybody listened to Radix and her program earlier, yesterday,
Her show,
during her show, she was covering exactly that. How they utilize this technology and have developed it in order to push a button, and now it's a matter of not just they probably have a button that they can push that says
button.
Poke them this way or poke them that way, using all kinds of different means of using this technology to influence what you say, what you think, and how you feel. You feel good one day, bad the next day. They bounce, you're bounced back and forth. It's despicable, it's evil, and it's got to stop. It absolutely has to stop. There's another document that I think that would be a fun one to go through right now there, Dead Cat, and that is the transcription of a telephone interview with Robert Dean.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Would you, I'll go ahead and put this up on the screen. I've got it all ready to go here.
And that would be Command Sergeant Major Robert O. Dean.
Yes, it would be. All right. And we'll get this ready for assessment. Okay. This comes from
on the previous link there that came up all white. Could barely read it.
No.
That was an interesting one. It kind of gives you an overview of who the guy is.
Well, this one does as well. Okay, what follows is an interview where Command Senior Master Sergeant Robert Dean responds to a number of criticisms raised by Major Kevin Randall concerning Dean's claims of having read a cosmic top secret NATO study called The Assessment while serving in the Operations Center of NATO's Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers in Europe. Major Randall's criticisms were originally published online at kevinrandall.blogspot.com, exopolitics.html. The interview via telephone date was January 13th of 2006. Location originating in Kona, Hawaii from Dr. Sala's home. Transcriber is Gassan Laman. Note, this is an edited transcribed version as taken directly from the interview. All attempts have been made to interpret the words correctly. This version, along with the unedited version, will remain stored in appropriate databases for future use and for verification of the audio conversation as it took place. MS equals Michael Sala. RD equals Robert Dean. Conversations was in progress when the recording began. The interview with Robert Dean, 213 Exopolitics Journal 1:3, April 2006. And it starts out here. This comes Command Sergeant Major Robert O. Dean, United States Army, from For Dreamland website. Robert O. Dean has been engaged in the field of UFO research for the last 40 years. He began this research on active duty in the U.S. Army, where he served 27 years. He retired as a Command Sergeant Major from the Army in 1976 as a highly decorated combat veteran after having served in the infantry unit commander in combat in Korea and Vietnam. He also served in intelligence field operations in Laos, Cambodia, and North Vietnam. Additionally, from 1963 to 1967, he served at Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe, SHAPE, NATO, as an intelligence analyst with a cosmic top secret clearance. While on this assignment, he helped move the headquarters to the new site in Belgium. Dean worked in the Operations Division and was a member of the Inner Command staff, thereby working with and seeing the SACEUR, SACEUR, Supreme Allied Commander Europe, almost every day. It was while he was stationed at SHAPE that Robert's interest in UFOs first started. One night, while on duty, Robert removed a file from the SHAPE's security vault called The Assessment, an evaluation of possible military threat to Allied forces in Europe, close quote. This file was given the highest security classification, Cosmic Top Secret. It retains that security classification to this day. The contents of this file opened Robert's eyes to the existence of UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence. He has, since reading The Assessment, he quotes there, dedicated his life to one goal: bringing to light the true facts surrounding the UFO phenomenon and contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. To this end, Robert's current projects are directed towards gaining immunity for ex-military personnel who may shed some light on the UFO issue, enabling them to testify before a congressional hearing without fear of losing their pensions or prosecution. Okay. Now, it's broken up. You have RD and MS. RD stands for Robert Dean, and MS stands for Michael Sala. As we've done in these before, I'll take RD. You want to take MS there, DC?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, that worked.
All right.
You want to make it a little bit bigger?
I can do that. How's that?
It kind of cuts off on the side. Oh, there it goes. Okay, that's good. That'll work.
RD. Okay. If you hear me, I'm RD. If you hear Dead Cat, that's MS, Michael Sala. All right. I am consenting to this interview for two reasons. One is that this is the last time that I'm going to be going through this. I've gone through this so many times over the years, over so many damn stupid accusations, that I'd like to clarify this once and for all, Michael. I'm doing this primarily out of respect for you because you put yourself in the middle here, apparently.
Thank you. Well, I do feel that what you have to say is really important. I feel that the truth in what you say, it means I don't mind sticking my neck out and supporting you, since I feel that what you're saying is the truth and it's important. There are people out there that don't like that.
I deeply appreciate that. I have a couple of misgivings. First of all, I'm rather curious as to why Kevin Randall never addressed this directly to me. I've known Kevin for years. I've known him since back when he and Don Schmidt were putting their first book together, and why he wouldn't just come up to me and say, "Look, I've got some misgivings about the story you're telling." And I could have clarified a whole bunch of things for him. But you're in the middle here, and I'm sorry for that. So I'd like to make a couple of things very clear. I'm glad you're recording this.
I'll record it all and transcribe it. That way it can go out and clarify a lot of those misconceptions that are out there.
Well, I went through the material that you sent me that apparently Kevin has published. There's a whole bunch of mistakes in there, a whole bunch of misunderstandings, which I could have clarified very clearly for him, if he had even taken the time to give me a call or to even write me a letter. So I thought we'd go down the list here, and I'd try to clarify a number of things.
That's great. Let's go through it, because that's what I really wanted to talk about, clarifying the various points he makes. So if you could respond to each of those, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'm going to go down the list and try to clarify what I can. Holy, I went through this years ago when I first came out and began talking about the SHAPE, Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe study. People said, "Oh, there's no such thing as cosmic top secret clearance." For 2 damn years, I put up with that crap, where people who have no idea what they're talking about said, "Oh, there's no such thing as a top secret clearance, a cosmic top secret clearance. He made it all up." But after about 2 years, a retired wing commander in Great Britain notified the publisher of UFO magazine over there that there was indeed a cosmic top secret level of clearance. And everybody who worked at classified level at SHAPE had to have a cosmic top secret clearance. So Graham, I don't know whether you ever met Graham.
Graham Birdsall. No, I never did.
Graham Birdsall published it clearly in his magazine that this retired wing commander had stated that yes, there was indeed a cosmic level clearance. I had it myself, he said. So it does exist, and it still exists. but I had to put up with that crap.
Here's an aside from me. You suppose he's a little bit irate about that?
Well, if you watch the video and you watch how he talks, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the actual video
I did not.
of some of his presentations, but it's too bad he's not with us anymore.
Oh yeah, I was going to say it sure would be nice to be able to interview him on our show, but
Ooh, that would be cool.
yeah, well, maybe in an alternate universe. All right, okay, so 1993 was the first time the general public was able to confirm that the cosmic top secret clearance existed.
Well, apparently, a lot of people didn't even know about it. Anybody who had been assigned at a classified level with SHAPE knew about it. But the people who were being critical of me apparently didn't have the insight or the access. So they just say that I made it all up. Well, finally, the wing commander came out and said that the damn thing does exist. I had it. Everybody at SHAPE who works with classified material has a cosmic top secret clearance. So we finally put that to rest. Then I went through a whole period of time where I was accused that I made up being at SHAPE, that I hadn't been there, that I was not this and I was not that, and so on and so on. And finally, Michael Hessman, I think you know who Michael is.
Yeah, I do, yes.
Michael did some research there in Germany and said, I had some German investigators check into this thing from the German office over at SHAPE, and they say, yes, the record is pretty clear that Dean was there and that he had this assignment. He had that assignment and that those claims very accurately reflected reality. One of the things that Kevin has gotten mistaken about here is that I had 2 assignments when I was at SHAPE. When I first arrived in the summer of 1963, I was assigned to the Operations Division. That was the assignment that I held, Plans and Operations Division. I held that assignment for 2 years, and then I got promoted. I was a Master Sergeant E7 at the time. I arrived at SHAPE. Then I got promoted to Master Sergeant E8. Now that was about back at the time when the United States Army created what they call super grades. They created the grade E8 and E9. Prior to that time, the senior enlisted level was E7. When I got there, I was an E7. While I was there in the Operations Division, I got promoted to E8, one of the super grades. And I moved from the Operations Division over to the Language Services Branch. Now, apparently, people who've done their investigating came up with the Language Services Branch and didn't have any record whatsoever of my 2 years assigned to the Plans and Operations Division. That's when I worked at SHOC, Supreme Headquarters Operations Center, in the War Room.
Okay, so that's really the intelligence section, the plans and operations.
Plans and Operations. That's when I ran the duty roster for the controllers, who were the 06s. 06 is a grade level. I don't know whether you're familiar with it. It's the full colonel in the Air Force. It's a captain in the Navy. But 06s were the controllers in SHOC. I ran the duty roster for these people. And while I was working in Operations Division for 2 years, I worked in SHOC. I was in and out of SHOC all the time. I even ran the duty roster for the 06s. But then, when I got promoted to Master Sergeant E8, I was transferred over as the Chief Security NCO for the Language Services Branch. I controlled and inventoried and had access, and I looked after all of the classified material in Languages Services Branch. Now, these were the documents that were being translated from English to French, from English to Italian, to German, to whatever. We had a complete staff of translators and interpreters that worked in the Language Services Branch. During those years, of the last 3 years of my assignment over there, I was the Sergeant Security for the language services branch. So the people who came up with information saying, oh, he was merely a clerk in the language branch, are missing the point entirely, that I had worked in ops for 2 years. Then when I got promoted and went over to language services, I was in charge of all of the documents, all of the classified material that had to be translated in the entire SHAPE headquarters.
In the time that you spent in languages services, did you have access to the assessment there?
No, I lost my access to the thing because when I moved out of shock, I had no access to get in and out of the shock vault anymore after that. But I was still responsible for controlling or inventorying and classifying and keeping control of all of the documents and classified material that had been submitted to Language Services Branch to be translated from one language to another. Matter of fact, I helped put together the shipment of all of our classified material out of SHAPE headquarters in 1967 before I came home, when we transferred all of the headquarters from Rocancourt to Castou. We were in Rocancourt outside of Paris. I helped put together the entire shipment of all the classified materials from Rocancourt up to Castou outside of Brussels. So I had 2 assignments over there. 2 years at the operations division where I worked in shock in the war room, and that's when I had access to the document, the assessment.
I see. When you made the move from operations division into the language section, was your clearance in any way affected?
No, I still held onto classified cosmic top secret level. To deal with that kind of material, Michael, you had to have a CTS. All of us in that level had CTS. Anybody who worked in shock had to have a CTS. I had to have a cosmic level clearance when I worked at language services because I inventoried and was responsible for. We had about 8 large safes in shock. We had one enormous vault. You could walk into the room at shock. When I left language services, we had 8 large safes absolutely stuffed with classified material. So I had to inventory and be responsible for that, giving it out to various translators and interpreters who had to translate it into other languages. But I didn't deal with the assessment after I left shock. Now, Kevin says that Dean later amended the story. Well, I never amended the story at all. It's all the same damn story. My first exposure to the assessment was when an Air Force full colonel who was on duty that night as the shock controller pulled it out of the vault and threw it on my desk and said, "Read this. This'll wake you up." Now, according to Kevin, I had another version, that I learned the study was underway and that having the required clearance, I often studied the pages. Well, there was nothing to study until the document was published in the summer of 1964. When I arrived in 63, there was a lot of gossip. There was a lot of conversation and gossip among the guys in the headquarters about the UFO study, but there was nothing to look at. There was nothing that had been published. They didn't publish the document until the summer of 1964. I'd been there in the operations division for a full year at that time. When it was published in the summer of 64, it caused quite a shock to a lot of people. Many of the senior officers were quite stunned by it. I'll say that one night on duty in shock during late summer of early fall of 1964 is when the Air Force colonel pulled it out of the vault and threw it on my desk and said, "Read it." I never had a chance to read anything until the late summer of 64 because the document was not published until the summer of 1964. So Kevin coming out and saying that I amended the story and he had another version, well, there is no damned amendment. I've told the same story from the very beginning, and I've told it repeatedly. There's nothing about amending it or another version. When I first arrived, there was a lot of conversation about it, but that was just gossip. Nobody had anything to really look at until the summer of 64. And only then did I ever have a chance to look at the damn thing. I'd made that clear repeatedly. If Kevin had even bothered to give me a call, I could have clarified it for him.
When you were in the language division, were there any documents there that were classified, quote, ultra unquote, or was it only in the operations center that there were, quote unquote, ultra classified documents?
The only time I had seen, in quote, ultra on any document was on a United States document. Ultra was not necessarily a level of classification that was commonly used at SHAPE. It was only used on United States documents. Now I logged in all of the documents. Kevin says that I didn't have the level of access of the need to know. I have no idea what Kevin's even talking about here, because if he's ever been assigned to a major international headquarters, people who have had the level of access deal with the documents that they are confronted with, and, in quote, need to know, close quote, doesn't necessarily apply when you've got about 500 to 1,000 different documents going over your desk in any number of days. In SHAPE headquarters back in 1964, 65, until I left in 67, we had literally hundreds of thousands of documents that were classified, in quote, cosmic, top secret, close quote. The idea of a, in quote, need to know, close quote, to deal with classified material is kind of silly. I was a senior NCO and I logged these documents in and I logged them out regularly. I conducted inventories of cosmic top secret documents every month. Need to know didn't even apply back in those days. So documents, when they published them, they would put out, in quote, eyes only, close quote, need to know, in quotes. But the number and the volume that we dealt with, there was no crap about a need to know with 500 documents crossing your desk. You've logged them, you've looked at them, you've tried to figure out what they were all about as to whom they were supposed to go. But like I said, the only time I had seen Ultra while I was in SHAPE headquarters was on U.S. documents. Back in those days, from 63, when I arrived, until 67 when I left, the administrative problems at SHAPE headquarters were quite serious. For example, every nation that was militarily assigned or represented there came to that headquarters with their own administrative procedures. For a long, long time, every nation that worked there at the headquarters frankly functioned with their own administrative procedures. I'm not surprised, that's my comment here. Before I left in 67, the admin, short for administration, division at SHAPE had to publish a special order trying to make all of the administrative procedures in the headquarters under one kind of central system of procedure. But it was a damned nightmare for a long time. The Greeks, the Turks, the Americans, the British, the Italians, Germans, everybody had their own admin processes. Generally, that's what they followed for a long time. It was not really until we moved the headquarters to Casteau, outside of Brussels, that the SHAPE admin office published and insist that people follow one single procedure for administrative operations at SHAPE headquarters. But it was a real hodgepodge for a long time.
So, generally speaking, then, the kind of security procedures that would be expected in the U.S. military just didn't operate in SHAPE because of these administrative problems that they had there.
Michael, it didn't even exist. We had to sock these people over the head, literally, trying to get some kind of system, a procedure, where everybody followed the same formats. Not only did we have all of those different languages involved, every damn piece of a document that went around was either German or Italian or French or English, and sometimes it was Turkish, sometimes it was Greek. The Norwegians even had their own procedures. The Danes had their procedures. They practically had to sock them over the head with a mallet. It was not really beginning to work until about the time I left in 1967, that the SHAPE admin headquarters published the procedure insisting that everybody follow the same damned administrative process. My immediate boss was a German colonel by the name of Berger. and his boss was an Italian brigadier general by the name of Julio Cesare Graziani. Now, Graziani was the son of an Italian field marshal. If you know your history, Graziani was the Italian field marshal that conquered Ethiopia. Well, his son was a brigadier general at SHAPE headquarters, and he was a bull-headed, I guess, because he was raised as the son of a field marshal. But he was an ornery cuss, and we had to fight like hell to get him to prepare documents that would meet the SHAPE administrative procedures. He wrote all his memos in Italian. They had to be translated into English and French or German. For a long time, it was a goddamn nightmare. I'll be honest with you. But about the time I left, the admin headquarters had gotten the personal administration to put together a procedure. I used to have a copy of it, but I'd misplaced it somewhere along the line, where everybody had to follow the same administrative procedure and violations were considered serious. But it was a nightmare for years. Everybody was publishing in their own process, and the Americans were just as bad as everybody else. So to answer your question about Ultra, I never saw Ultra on anything but U.S. documents.
Okay. Now, was Ultra on the assessment itself?
Ultra, yes. It was on the assessment. I remember that I'd seen it repeatedly.
Okay.
Now, there is another thing here I need to clarify. It is that Kevin says that I provided a document to somebody and that they determined it was false. Well, let me clarify a little bit here. I never provided a document to anybody. I was attending an international lecture in Dusseldorf in 1993. It was a big conference sponsored by Michael Hessman, and I was a speaker over there. I was in Dusseldorf in 1993 during the weekend between. It was a 2-week conference. I rented a car and I drove over to Casteau, just south of Brussels, to go to SHAPE headquarters. I had been so concerned, so distraught over the criticism that I had been receiving from so many people that I went down to SHAPE headquarters in Casteau and I visited SHAPE. I went into the U.S. headquarters there and I laid out my ID and proved who I was and got myself a pass. That pass authorized me to access to go into SHAPE headquarters. I spent the better part of 2 days visiting different offices in SHAPE headquarters there in Casteau. I asked questions, and it was very clear who I was. I identified myself. I visited the United States section. I went up to the old operations division. I never got back into shock because I didn't have the clearance or access at the time. I met a lot of people. I talked to the command sergeant major at SHAPE headquarters there. I talked to the administrative office. I went and visited the old language services branch to see if any of the translators or interpreters that I used to know were still around. I found 2 of them were still there. I began to ask a lot of questions during that summer of 1993 about the document, about the assessment. I found that people were very hesitant to even talk about anything that was classified, which only made sense. I understood that. So I spent a better part of 2 days there visiting and enjoyed it thoroughly. I took a whole lot of photographs of me and SHAPE and so on. I visited a couple of old friends in Language Services Branch. Then I went back to Germany, and at the end of the conference, I went back to the States. About 3 weeks after I got home in the summer of 1993, I got a little note in the mail. It was an envelope, about a half a dozen 35mm colored negatives in it. No letter, no comment, no explanation, no nothing. Only about half a dozen loose 35mm colored negatives. I put them up to the light, got a magnifying glass, and looked at them, and they appeared to be photographs of the material from the assessment. Apparently, my inquiries when I had been over in Germany and drove over to Casteau and all had triggered something on behalf of somebody. So I'm back in the States, and I get this envelope in the mail, and these negatives were in there. I could determine that apparently they were negatives of classified documents and appeared to be material from the assessment. Now, step 2. I had an opportunity to visit my son, who was at that time was assigned to the Pentagon. My boy is a carrier naval officer. He's a full captain in the Navy. He's an 06. I visited him there that fall because I remembered that the leaves were falling. While I was visiting my son in Arlington, he was working at the Pentagon. I took these negatives over to a man by the name of C. Richard D'Amato. Now, have you ever heard of Dick Amato?
Yes, I have.
Well, I don't know whether Dick is still working there. At the time, he was counsel for international and national security policies. He worked for a United States senator on the Appropriations Committee, Senator Robert Byrd. Dick had his top secret clearance, and he was interested in the UFO subject. And I crossed paths with him a couple of times, and I had gotten to know him. So while in Washington in the fall of '93, I took those negatives with me. I went to D'Amato's office, and I said, "Look, do me a favor. You've got access. You have access to the whole lot of things, and you have a top secret level clearance. You work for Senator Byrd. You're on the Committee for Appropriations for the United States Senate." Dick was, at that time, counsel for international and national security policies. So I gave him the negatives, and I said, "Dick, do me a favor. Find out if you can for me if these are legitimate." I turned them over to him. We had a pleasant afternoon, and I think we had dinner together then I left. I never heard from him after that because I went back to Arizona. The next thing I hear is that somebody in Britain is saying I submitted a document to verify my story that had been considered to be fraudulent. Well, I have not submitted a document to anybody. I had submitted negatives to Dick Amato, asking him in his good graces to see if he could find out if these were legitimate or whether they were phony. The next thing I know, they were published in the British magazine Unopened Files, that I had provided a photograph of the colored covered document. According to Kevin, that proved to be the downfall of my tale. Well, that's a total erroneous thing. I never submitted a document to anybody. I gave the negatives to Dick Amato and said, "Please try to find out for me if you can whether these damn things are legitimate."
Right. So that document was in the British Journal, Unopened Files, and was probably by Mark Birdsall.
Sorry, getting a drink of water there. Yeah, I remember Mark published it in his little magazine, so I never gave Mark anything. The last thing I did is give Dick Amato some negatives. The next thing I know, apparently they made a print and they published it in the magazine, and it had Ultra on it. That supposedly proved that Dean was a big liar. Well, let me tell you something about Ultra. A lot of people have said that. No, it doesn't exist. Michael, Ultra is and has been a U.S. level of access. It's been a U.S. level code since the early 1950s. Now, are you familiar with Richard Dolan's UFO book?
Yes, I am.
Well, Dick has done some incredible research. He's one of the finest research investigators that I've ever encountered, and his book is what I consider to be a masterpiece. On page 85 of the 47 2002 edition of Dick's book, UFO'S and the National Security State, that's in quotes, Dick talks about Donald Menzel, who had a top secret ultra clearance. You're familiar with who Menzel had been.
Yes, I am.
Well, Dick had done some research and found out that Menzel had a ultra top secret clearance back in the 50s. And apparently, from what I've been able to piece together, Ultra is a level of access the United States government uses primarily to deal with UFO objects or UFO subjects. They apparently put the Ultra level on any document that has to do with alien activities or UFO sightings. And Menzel had a top secret Ultra clearance, according to Richard Dolan's research back in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. If you have a copy of Dolan's book, you can find it on page 85 of the 2002 edition.
Thank you for that. That is very helpful. I do have a copy and I'll look it up.
Well, Dick is a researcher that I respect. He does his homework. He really looks into it. He came up with the fact that Menzel had an ultra top secret back in the 50s. So from my own experience, Ultra, while I was at SHAPE, appeared only on U.S. documents. Apparently, when D'Amato got the negatives printed, I found out that he apparently had sent them to Timothy Good. and Good is the one who provided them to Mark Birdsall. So I've been trying to piece this together of how the hell the negatives ended up in Mark Birdsall's magazine. So from what I can piece together, Diamato had given them to Good because they knew each other. I still, to this day, Michael, will not swear that the cover sheet is legitimate. I have no knowledge that it is. All I know is that I'd been given these negatives. I gave them to a D'Amato. Apparently, D'Amato gave them to Good. And the next thing I know, they're in Mark Birdsall's magazine.
Mm-hmm. Now, with the negatives themselves, were they basically still on that film that you received? In other words, they hadn't been developed yet, and you were wanting to know.
I have never developed any of those negatives because I had seen Top Secret on the damn thing. While I looked at them through a magnifying glass, I was not able to have them developed, you know. I wanted to get them out of my hands as quickly as I could.
Okay, so you were concerned that these were still highly classified documents and that this may be in violation of the law if you.
Michael, I was thinking at the time, somebody's trying to set me up.
I see. Okay, well, that makes sense.
That's why I got rid of them and gave them to D'Amato, just to get rid of them. Never did print them. The next thing I know is I understand that D'Amato never leveled with me, or we never talked about that. But apparently he sent them to Good, and Good sent them to Birdsall, and apparently Good and the Admiral, Lord Hill Norton, tried to figure out whether they were legitimate. According to the Admiral's research, they could never find anything to verify them. One of the things they did bring out is that Ultra was not a level of classification. Well, Ultra is and has been for years. Because, Michael, you know this. Because I know that you've done your homework. A lot of levels of classification are in themselves classified.
Right.
Oh, and I'm not surprised and wouldn't be surprised to find out that the Ultra as a level of classification is in itself classified. So it's probably not found anywhere. But Dick Dolan dug it out, and in his book on page 85 of the 2002 edition.
So basically, when D'Amato passed on those documents to Good and Birdsall, somewhere along the line, they misconstrued that you had actually seen these and believed that they were legitimate, that this was not.
Yeah. The last document I saw was when I left Shock. Let's see. I went there in 63. I worked there for about 2 years. It was probably late 65 when I was promoted to Master Sergeant E8 and went over to Language Services Branch. And I hadn't seen any material that had Ultra on it after I left Shock. The only Ultra I had seen was on U.S. documents in the vault. But Ultra was not a common term used by SHAPE headquarters. It was only used by the United States. And the United States had its own administrative procedures and techniques. For example, we had Air Force and Army and Navy all working together. All the United States branches, Air Force, Army, Navy, our Air Force and our Army and our Navy, all had individual administrative procedures. So when you're dealing with documents, for example, you were dealing with a document that had been prepared by the Air Force. You had to make it very clear when you provided that document to the United States Navy or to the United States Army, this was strictly an Air Force document because the formats were different. You talk about the nightmare of having all those different foreign countries involved. Good God, even our 3 services had their own procedures. And I'll be honest with you, in almost the 4 years, close to 5 years that I worked at SHAPE headquarters, the administration was a nightmare. Not only to get the 3 services of the United States to come to some kind of process or procedure that made sense, but to get the other nations to do the same damn thing. It was literally a damn nightmare. I'll tell you honestly, I don't know whether Dick D'Amato is still working back in Washington. I've got a phone number on him, and I thought I'd give him a call. He used to live in Annapolis, Maryland. I was thinking of trying to track him down to see if he's still working out there. As much as he had top secret level, I'm sure he's probably working in government somewhere.
Right. There are two documents that came up in Graham Birdsall's article. One was the cover sheet of the assessment. The one was basically a letter saying that you had an ultra top secret clearance. So that was not something you had ever seen before. That was basically part of that package, or half a dozen of half a dozen negatives that you received.
No, I still don't know what the hell Mark Birdsall published. Nobody ever sent me a copy of the magazine.
Oh, well, that's something that we're discussing. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, you jumped it there.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Well, I have a copy, so I can send it to you.
Well, thank you. I understand that you guys are putting together something which she received something yesterday in the mail about a new format or procedure that your organization is putting together. But she somehow misplaced it or whatever. I can't find it. I would appreciate it if you could send it again.
Okay, is this the conference that we're putting together?
Well, it's something about the organization that's come up with a procedure where you're going to try to determine who's telling the truth and who isn't.
Oh, well, that's something that we're discussing. It's not something that we've decided upon yet, but it's something that we're trying to play with. But that's a hard one, just because there's so much debate and contention out there.
Yeah, well, there is. I wish you luck, my friend. You know, I was concerned recently. You're familiar with the statement made by ex-Canadian Defense Minister.
I certainly am, yes.
Yeah, he came out. I believe he said that Colonel Corso had been telling the truth according to Corso's book the day after Roswell. Well, Phil and I were friends. I knew Phil Corso. I'd been to conferences with him. I got to know him over the years. I respected the man, and I've always believed in my heart that Phil Corso was telling the truth from the very beginning. Now that the retired or ex-Minister of Defense of Canada has come out and apparently confirmed Phil Corso's story was legitimate, I wish Phil were still around to hear that.
Yes, he confirmed that Corso was legitimate by a retired Air Force general who confided in him that Corso was telling the truth. Paul Hellyer hasn't revealed who that general was. People would like to know, but he is also being criticized because just as Philip Corso was criticized, now Paul Hellyer is being criticized by many ufologists because he's taking Philip Corso at his word or based on what he was told by the general.
You know, this is heartbreaking, Michael, that we people in the UFO field can't get along. We are our own worst enemies. With this knockdown, drag out brawl that's going on everywhere, or where everybody's throwing bricks, bats, rocks, and mud at each other. We don't need critics in the Department of Defense. We're doing enough damage to ourselves, for Christ's sake.
Yes, in my own experience in looking at the criticisms, what I find is that people will try to twist what others say and try to discredit them that way. Like in the case of Kevin Randall with your testimony, he said that you changed your story a number of times, but that is an outright distortion of what had occurred. You've actually said that you've maintained the same story. So some researchers try to misconstrue how people present facts and in a negative light. I've noticed that this has happened not only with you, but with Philip Corso, Clifford Stone, and other whistleblowers.
Yes, I've noticed that too, and it breaks my heart because, as I told you before, I told one story, I told it simply, and I told it in one version. And I haven't changed my tale. I haven't changed anything. I tell the same damn story because what I'm telling is what I've seen, what I was involved with, what I've learned. I can't change that. I was there. I saw this. I was affected by it. I kept my mouth shut for so many years. I never said a word until finally I got to a point where, frankly, I was getting to think I'm going to die here before I ever share it with anybody. And I came out and told the story. Well, I have been attacked mercilessly from all directions, but the attacks from the guys within the UFO field of research have really hurt me more than anything else. And that troubles me. I respect your position, Michael, and I respect your hunger to find the truth. I support you completely, and I want to thank you for standing up for me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Every time I hear you, I feel the truth of your words. Your story is consistent. Your story fits with the facts. To me, your story is critical to this whole field. And I'm frankly amazed that so many UFO researchers go to such great lengths to find any way to cast doubt or to criticize you when, in fact, it's been clearly proven that you served in the operations center of NATO, having a very senior position and had access to some very sensitive documents. Yet people choose not to acknowledge that and go for those very abstract criticisms or minor details that might not fit their conceptions and criticisms of you. To me, it's like people are out to debunk your story regardless of the truth of it.
Well, I agree with you, Michael. And as I said, I support you. And I'm sorry that you found yourself in the middle here between Kevin and I. As I said, it could have all been resolved if Kevin had ever had the courtesy to give me a phone call or write me a letter. We could have clarified some things a long time ago without having to put you in the middle here. I respect you and I encourage you to continue to do what you're doing, Michael. You've got my support all the way through this thing.
Well, thank you.
I admire what you're doing. I know how difficult it is for you. I know what you went through back there at the university, and I take my hat off to you, my friend.
Thank you, Bob. I'm certainly encouraged by the things you've told me. I know that this field is real. I know the things you've experienced make it worthwhile. For any sacrifice that I've gone through is little in comparison to what the benefit is of pursuing the truth and getting this information out.
I ran into Stephen Greer a couple of years back. It was at a conference. I think it was up in Laughlin at Bob Brown's conference a couple of years back. He grabbed hold and pulled me aside and he said, in quote, "Oh, by the way," he said, in quote, "one of my whistleblowers that I had at my big conference in Washington, D.C., has told me that he read the assessment and that everything you said is true," close quote. Then he ran off, and I never got a chance to get Stephen Greer pinned in a corner to find out who the hell he was talking about. So apparently, one of his retired military whistleblowers had verified the assessment. So if you ever get a chance to run into Greer, ask him who the hell he was talking about.
Thank you. Yes, that's an important lead. I'll definitely keep that in mind next time I talk to him.
Good. And listen, I know the one who verified the story was Michael Wolff. You know what a job they did on Michael Wolff.
Yes, I know. They debunked him mercilessly as well.
Well, I knew Michael Wolff. I never met him, but I had talked to him repeatedly when he was dying. He was on the phone with me many, many hours, and Michael Wolff told me, and he told the Italian lady.
Paolo Harris.
Yeah, he told Paola Harris that he had read the assessment in a U.S. file when he was involved back there. But then they attacked Michael. They pulled him apart and tried to discredit him. But it goes on and on, Michael. It happens again and again. And Clifford Stone is another friend of mine. Are you familiar with who Clifford is?
Yes, I've done some interviews with Clifford. I certainly know about him.
Clifford Stone is a retired Army sergeant who lives in, of all places, Roswell. Clifford had said one time, in quote, "I've read the damned assessment," close quote, he said. In quote, "I saw the U.S. copy," close quote. And he supported me and said that Dean was telling the truth. But I reached a point, Michael, as I said. I'm going to be 77 here in a couple of weeks, and I'm too damn tired to go through this crap again. I spoke with you, and I've shared a few things with you only because, as I said, I respect you and I respect the position that you're in. So this will be my last so-called public statement on the thing. And I wish you well, my friend.
Okay, thank you.
I hope your conference is hell of a wonderful success.
Thank you, Bob. I'll keep you posted. I have all this transcribed and send you a copy. This will hopefully deal with those kinds of criticisms and at least get the record straight.
Listen, my friend, if you run into Kevin, if he comes to the conference and you get in touch with him, tell him that all this could have been resolved if he had ever communicated with me.
I'll pass that on.
Okay, guy.
Thank you very much, Bob. All the best.
Michael, you take care of yourself. I'll have to tell you very honestly, I'm a little envious of you being in Hawaii. I wish I were there, but I don't travel anymore.
Well, thank you for your help and for telling me what exactly happened and clarifying the situation. That does help me a lot, and I can now respond to each of the criticisms.
If you are ever able to track down Dick D'Amato, I'm sure he'll verify everything I told you.
Okay, I'll do that.
And then read page 85 of the 2002 edition of Dolan's book, and you'll see he refers to Ultra as being active back in the 50s. I only saw Ultra on U.S. documents at SHAPE, never on French, German, British, or any of that.
Okay.
Okay, my friend.
Thank you. Aloha. And the following postscript is an email exchange, so I'll go ahead and continue with Michael Sala. Apparently, Timothy Good claims you told him that Sir Fred Hoyle worked as a consultant on the assessment. Hoyle later denied any involvement or knowledge of the assessment. Can you clarify what you told Good?
Dear Michael, thank you for sending me a copy of Mark Birdsell's materials. Honestly, I don't think that I ever said that Frank Hoyle had seen the assessment or had contributed to it. I do remember making a remark that Fred's comments to a British journalist in 1991 seemed to indicate that he might have seen the assessment, since many of Hoyle's observations were very similar to materials contained in the assessment. I am aware that Hoyle later denied his remarks, but they did appear in many publications at the time. His renowned Indian physicist associate did later remark that both he and Hoyle fully accepted the extraterrestrial reality. I'm not sure of his name. It may have been something like Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe, and that's the end of the document there. So,
well, that was
yeah, that's kind of interesting. Now, I agree, for folks out there in live chat, just to kind of give you an idea. Okay, we have several other transcribed interviews with Mr. Dean. And I think that what we might want to do is pick this up again on our next show and go into some of those, because that's where it gets to the meat of it. But, now that we know there was a controversy, whether or not this was somebody trying to debunk him, discredit him, or something like that, for all the information he'd been putting out. So we've kind of got his side of that issue on the table now. So as we go into these other transcribed presentations, you can kind of add that to the mix for your own discernment. Your thoughts there, DC?
Yeah, and while this did not get into any of the really technical aspects or get into the UFO document itself, it looks to me like this has laid the groundwork for the validity of Mr. Dean's or Command Sergeant Dean's, Sergeant Major Dean's testimony in the upcoming transcripts. So you can make your own discernment as to whether you believe his version or believe the versions that have been told about discrediting him. But I tend to believe that he saw this assessment and that what he's going to be bringing forth about it is likely to be true.
Interesting. Spies like us. If you're a member of the server, our Discard server, if you've got some information, you say you've studied this for 30 years and that, okay. And I know that I haven't seen you before. I don't know how long you've been around. Maybe you're new to Patriot Soapbox, but we're trying to get to the truth. If you have information or documents or personal experience or your own research, you can contact either Dead Cat or myself and share with us what you found. That's where a lot of this information comes from. Now we each do a little bit of our own research, but we've got thousands and thousands of you folks out there in the live chat that have your own experiences and you have your own discernment. So if you've got something you would like to share, I encourage you to become a member of the Patriot Soapbox server. And you can place links there. You can send both Dead Cat and myself information, and we'll take a look at it.
And
I mean,
Gray,
we've had one of our contributors, TMC, is we actually brought him in as a phone-in guest to share his side of the story on a lot of the information that he's been providing us. So if you'd like to help move the game forward, I encourage you to do just what I suggested. All right.
and Gray Anon out there has put the PSB Discord invite in a link form. So look for Gray Anon there, and that's the link to get into the PSB server. And once you're in there, then you can DM anybody who is a member of that server. Both Thumper and myself are members of that server. So we would be glad to take a look at whatever it is you provide. And, if in fact it's what you purport it to be, then we'd be glad to discuss it with you.
And I like what he says here. I love you guys. I just got off on the wrong foot. Well, that does happen. And we totally get it. If you're new here to what we're doing and what this whole movement is about, it's about the truth and about getting to the bottom line so we can all live a better life.
Absolutely. And in reference to that particular item, I wanted to add something back when we were discussing the technology that exists that we aren't aware of. One of the major things that we were talking about was that what would you do if you had the freedom to pursue your real talents? And the freedom, by that I mean, what if you didn't have to worry about making it to work and making that paycheck so you can pay your electric bill, so that you can buy the gas to make your car work, so that you could actually keep your car on the road, buying tires, buying various things. What if you had the freedom to do all of the things that you really wanted to do that actually fit your talents?
By the way, DC, we've got 4 minutes left. And I'd like to close it out the same way we did the last show with our video. So
yeah, our intro extra.
Yeah.
I call it that.
Our intro and our exit.
Intro and our exit. Yes. Okay. Well, I just wanted to bring that point up because I didn't get to before. I had wanted to, and we just we moved on along to the read that we just did. But I wanted to point out, every one of us has certain things that we know how to do, that we're able to do. Maybe we don't even know that we know how to do them yet. But given the freedom to pursue these things, to actually shine in the way that all of us individually are, think of what the world can be. Just think of what our world could be if we didn't have the hatred, didn't have the constant pressure to act, to react. So I mean, I'll leave you with that, and I don't want to use up all of our last couple of minutes, so I'll just leave it at that.
The crew that comes in behind us likes to start on time, and I don't like to hold them up. So
I don't blame them.
I want to say thank you to everyone out there. You've been a wonderful audience tonight. Appreciate everyone that hangs in here with us. You folks out on the East Coast, I got to hand it to you because it's really early in the morning. You're either just getting up or you haven't been to bed yet. So Thank you for hanging with us here at Patriot Soapbox Hyperdrive. We will be back on Monday with another installment of Hyperdrive. Again, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And, just remember, Dead Cat and I will be back in a few hours for Straight Shooting coming up at 6 a.m. Pacific time. That's 9 a.m. on the East Coast for Straight Shooting. So whether we get to sleep or not, we'll be here.
I'm gonna get some sleep, I guarantee you that.
All right. So good night, everybody. Have a wonderfully rest of your evening or / morning, whichever the case may be. And God bless every single one of you. Thank God for the Patriots.
Absolutely. God bless you, and I love you all.
You're going to have Percival and Learn Share on the other side. Good night, everyone.
Take it away, boys.